This is season 2 of the Empower Healing Circle podcast. To our new listeners, welcome to our corner of the internet. For those who aren't new but true, thanks for listening and welcome back. I am Jezere.
I'm Lauren Zakia.
And I'm E. Nicole.
And we are faculty and fellows at Empower Institute, a center for community healing and optimal living. This season, we will be discussing healing, how we define it, its importance, and various intersections. Circle up, y'all. It's time to heal.
All right. So we'd actually like to start here with a really good quote from Cheryl Strayed. And it's, "The place of true healing is a fierce place. It's a giant place. It's a place of monstrous beauty and endless dark and glimmering light. And you have to work really, really, really hard to get there. But you can do it."
That was nice. Where'd you find that?
Various Google searches.
So our first question is, what is your definition of healing?
So as in trying to, all that kept coming up for me here, and when I think of my definition of healing was like, automatically I start seeing in certain hues and lights and things like that. It's like, okay, but how do we describe that to our listeners, right? And so if you look it up in like the regular, I guess, dictionary, so to speak, it's defined as the process of making or becoming sound or healthy again, or then tending to heal something that's therapeutic. And so in thinking about that, I think what stands out most for me and how I really define fitness is all around the process. Is that healing, I just first and foremost think of it as not like a single incident, but yet like a whole journey in which I am like a revolving door journey in which I'm like constantly learning something new and understanding different layers of like myself and also the world around me. But anyway, that's what I was kind of beginning to grapple with around it.
That's nice. I was just thinking of healing as a return to wholeness or to an original state of well-being, or original state. Your most natural state is your healed state.
That's different. That latter part I hadn't thought about. I would say mine is a consistent and constant working definition. So when I think of healing, I think of it as a journey to wholeness, but there may be pit stops along the way. So that's where I am with my definition today.
Yeah. We say often at the center that anything living has learned to heal. So as human beings, we are breathing, living beings. There's some part in our life that we have had to heal. Something in our life that we've had to heal from. And so everyone has the capacity to understand or experience healing because they have had to heal something at some point.
I think about how, Jezere, when you were talking about like wholeness, how in my life, how that journey to wholeness, how wholeness gets redefined, because then, you get to whatever point, it's almost like, for me, it's almost like a journey through, and then, okay, and now you're at this space, and then, you come on, and then so it's like no like final destination, It just keeps getting redefined with the different layers and different levels and different situations that come up, different people.
Yeah. So how have you learned to heal, and what does it look like? No, that's not what that is. How have you learned to heal, and does it look the same for all the places in your life that need to be nurtured? Child, what? That's going to have to be
No, we're not cutting. Hey, y'all. Circle up. The question is, good people, is how have you learned to heal? So that's the first part. that we're about to dive into. And then also, does the way that we've learned to heal, does it look the same for all the places in your life, so for all the areas in your life, or have you had to come up with like different methods of healing for different areas?
Yeah, I didn't want to keep using the word heal in the same question, so
yes, I get it. I just wasn't reading it.
So how have we learned to read and write?
I think for me, learning to heal it came out of necessity. So I think some things you learn how to heal. So like if you are sick and if you are of the African American culture, get you a good ginger ale and some saltines for an upset stomach. You know how to heal that part. But you're not necessarily given a toolkit to heal depression or anxiety or feeling like you don't fit in where you feel like you should fit in. Those are things that we run into matriculating through life, and you learn how to heal those parts of yourself when you come up against that.
Yeah. That's a good point, because I think many people have learned to cope and not learned to heal. So we know things will happen to us. We've experienced many things, and some have just managed to deal with the unhealed aspects of a situation because maybe they thought that healing was not possible and or available. I had to learn to heal by really acknowledging that I was unhealed. And I think that's probably why I said around like coping or just dealing with it, because I was experiencing brokenness or shame, but I did not connect that early in my life as something that needed to be healed. It was definitely something that I needed to get over, but getting over something is not necessarily the same as healing. What I often heard was give it time, as though time alone would lessen the pain, but directing the attention to myself and being self-honoring in ways was how I learned to heal, by really turning inward.
I do think giving it time is helpful, but like you said, time alone is not going to heal these wounds.
Yeah.
My father would always say, if you're upset or if something is going on, he was like, go take a hot shower. And in you taking the hot shower, you're giving yourself time to kind of process what is happening. Like, what are these emotions that I'm feeling? What is happening to me? And I think from there, you can come out of the hot shower with a plan of action. And for me, I still use that if I feel like there's something that I need to work through, or if there's something that's like, it hasn't completely broken me down, but I sense that I need to turn inward and heal it, I'm going to take that time and kind of work through that step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what's coming up for me with this question is, for one, the first thing that jumped out at me is how have I learned to heal, and I immediately thought, through nature, and how being outside with the elements, and also connecting with animals, everything from plants and all this other stuff, has always been definitely like a healing source for me. And I was just thinking how connected that was to, even with hot showers, it's also a connection to water that definitely has something there, whether or not, as people, we always make that connection, but it has its power, there. But also I was just thinking about, I believe a lot while I would say my family has been one that hasn't always really addressed mental health needs all the time. In the family, it's been interesting. Either you just kind of like, you either really cater to an individual, or you kind of like, and for lack of a better word, I'll say like enable them without actually addressing certain things. I will say what I did learn, especially with my mom, is it wasn't a reactionary response to healing, but it was actually proactive. So we were always outside and doing things, always fresh air. She would always have me explaining to me like the powers of like the sun and sunlight, and everything, being beyond whatever like skin needs or whatever, but just like getting like that power from around the sun, as a part of like almost like regular life. So then it wasn't such a huge like crisis jump whenever, if there was an actual like some type of feeling around like what you were saying, like brokenness or something, issue with a situation with a person, or actual physical health issue. And so I was just thinking about how certain healing, I want to say, sources or actions or activities were planted like to be like a part of like regular life at different times. So
well, I'm thinking like when I was younger, I'm a pretty expressive person, so I think for me, when I was younger, I would dance. I grew up dancing, and actually dancing was a way for me to release some of the stress that I was having outside of dance class, which I didn't necessarily associate until as we're talking through this now. But even now, when I think about how I'm expressive, it's like, if it's just me verbally expressing the pain and not like harboring onto it or suppressing feelings, I have to find a way to express, let it out. For me, that's how I'm learning to heal. And you have to have community to which to be expressive too. I think that's the key. Expressing it just for the sake of expressing it may not get to where you need to be, but if you are in community with people who can hold the pain that you have, then it becomes lighter.
Yeah. Desiree, you mentioned something earlier about how like people will, maybe you learn to cope, but then get into that next point of actually like healing. And I just was thinking about how overall, how like Western society is all about treating symptoms. It's not even just like black folks. Okay, Lauren, fine.
I said that.
Then you said it. Whatever. I felt like.
We'll cite every source.
Wow. Okay, I hear you.
Modern society.
So yeah, well, Western society specifically, it's all about treating symptoms. And then my mind started going, okay, well, where does that come from? And it's like this urge to just, okay, treat the symptoms, now keep it moving.
Yeah.
I think about, not to go off on a tangent, but think about like capitalism and everything like that. How certain people, you have to just keep pushing and producing. You need to cope, but then turn around, and then I feel like there's also criticism sometimes around folk, like around people's coping mechanisms when there's a whole societal push to keep it moving. And so I'm just thinking like, man, I'm seeing all these connected pieces around how people may, and how I have, and different people have get introduced to the process of healing or even addressing any type of issues in any way. But then there's this kind of pressure that you have to push through. Yeah. And you only have this limited amount of time. And if you do take too much time, then you're kind of selfish.
I can see that. I think a lot of people also come to healing as a result of that. Like once you have exhausted all of these coping mechanisms and you realize this is not helping me, I really need to figure out what is going on. So once you've reached that point, for some people, that's when they realize it is time to heal, and I need to figure out what that looks like for me. Yeah. Other people may not need to get to that point. Because I know sometimes I do check-ins, and if it's something that is glaring to me, like, oh, I need to address this right now. It could be 2 o'clock in the morning. I might send somebody a text like, hey, when you wake up, let's talk.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a sense of urgency.
It's like a sense of urgency for me, because I've come to that place where I refuse to like put myself on the back burner. And I think when you think of healing, it is easy to push it and to keep pushing it until you are now sitting in the corner rocking and other people are going on with their lives, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah. That second part, does it look the same for all the places in your life that need to be nurtured?
starts the same, like you recognizing. For me, recognizing that there's an issue, it all starts the same.
Yeah.
But the way that I treat each of these things is different. Just because, just like you wouldn't treat every ailment the same.
Yeah, I agree with that.
No. Now, what was it that was trying to get out of your mouth? I didn't know it was ideas. It just need some water.
I don't know.
All right, so I'll just say maybe, I was just thinking, yeah, I agree. It's definitely very similar for me, as Desiree stated, with herself. Something I will say is that a lot of times, especially if the healing needs to be, if it involves a relationship with another person, then that is always going to be a different thing. So when I think about, I'll think about how, let's say, me and my partner. And so if I'm in a state where I'm ready to talk about something right now, but then she is actually someone who likes to take time to process. So you need to find a way to, I'm like, okay, let's do this.
Right, like right now.
But then if I were to push more, that can cause more harm. But then also if I don't speak and allow too much processing time to take place, then I'm just like, I'm the person that's over in the corner, balled up, right? Or I'm like out the door, just like, I'm going to go back outside in nature. I'm going to climb a tree or something. I don't know. But just, I think how naturally I feel like adjustments have to be made when it involves another person. And as far as just if I'm able to address something with myself, for me, it definitely all starts the same in like really quiet listening, and trying to tune into what my body is like saying, not just around physical health, but then also around, they say like stories are kept in your hips and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Like what are spirit guides even telling me through certain things? So I have to be quiet first. Is definitely a main staple to like first step toward healing.
Yeah. Yeah, there definitely has to be the attention and the attunement of self is a part of that beginning process. Mm-hmm. And what you discover when you direct your attention to self and tune into what your body, your mind, and spirit are communicating will dictate what the remedy or what you need to do. But yeah, it to your point, Desiree, it does start the same. In my experience.
Right. Yeah, we want y'all to be responding to these podcasts. Let us know if it is the same for you or if it's anything different too.
Yeah. And what lessons have you learned from your healing journey?
Mm-hmm. What lessons am I still learning?
Right, because it's a process. I would say one of the lessons is what you mentioned earlier, is that time does not heal all wounds, and that as well-meaning as our older family members are, what worked for them may not work for you. Sometimes silence is not golden. It is a poisonous stick that will kill you. But what I have learned is that communication is so wonderful when it is done properly and respectfully. So even if you are not communicating with another person, just communicating with yourself can have wonderful benefits. Like just talking like, oh, hey girl, yes girl, what's going on?
Did you answer yourself? Hey girl, yes girl?
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
If you ignore yourself, that creates a whole ailment.
Yeah.
Hey girl, yes girl.
I know some people don't have inner dialogue. I have much inner dialogue. So, yeah, I feel like communication and working things out through speech and somebody who can receptively hear you and listen for understanding and not just a response has been a very good lesson for them.
I mean, I definitely, one of the lessons that I've learned is that I'm deserving of healing. I think that any person that has experienced oppression, I mean, the nature of oppression is to convince you of your unworthiness or your inferiority. And so, whereas when I would not vocalize when I was in pain, it was from a sense of I didn't deserve to be listened to and or attention. I was not worthy of attention being directed to me. And so I've had to learn that I am deserving. I should be experiencing healing. And from there, I give myself permission to lean into myself and take have the necessary supports that I need, but also taking time away and taking a break when necessary. I mean, healing comes when you rest. You know, when you used to get a scab or sore, you know, you fall down and, you know, leave it alone. Don't touch it. You know, let it heal. You have to let yourself heal. So the time that you need, the timepiece is the rest, so that those wounds, emotional, mental wounds can heal.
Yeah. Well, you know, now you're really speaking my language. As a personal trainer, I'm always telling people, your muscles actually don't grow while you're doing push-ups or lifting weights. They actually grow when you're resting after that work is done. So that's absolutely right in alignment. A lot of people think, if I just, again, with that whole push-through mentality, that actually doesn't make you better. You're actually spending energy. So it's not going to work. But I guess the major lessons that I have learned so far, learning is that once I grasped the lesson, I realized that it was probably an earlier time when I probably could have learned it. That there's always something, a little sign. So what I've noticed is, man, you know, it could be something as little as, seems like a shift in the wind. It was like, pay attention. Nope. Or like some little subtle things. If it's about a person, it could be about some type of food that you feel like, nah, don't touch that. Don't eat that. Or whatever. Even our bodies actually give us small signs. And I think then all of a sudden, just already spoke to as far as all of a sudden you like shoot up in your sleep in the middle of the night, like, oh nope, I gotta hit this person up. Well, our bodies actually do the same thing, but they also give us earlier nudges, softer nudges. Our universe will give you softer nudges, and then all of a sudden it starts to accumulate. Okay, you know, it's like a kid, like mom, you know, and it start getting louder. Well, that's because your ass wasn't listening before. So now I gotta make you trip. I gotta make you have explosive diarrhea.
Now you have a flat tire.
Right. Or now we're arguing at the top of our lungs.
Yeah.
Now, you know, your ass is fired. Or whatever the hell happens. Now your ass is dumped. Something that escalates. But it was these little things.
Oh, Lord.
Like, now you married to the wrong person. Damn.
Oh, Lord.
But it's like,
oh, Lord.
there's the little things. And so the more that we're open to this healing journey, I'm going to bring this back full circle here. I believe what I have learned, the more open I have been to paying attention to those first softer nudges, so I don't have to get hit over the head. I still, every once in a while, get hit, and I just kind of laugh at this point, like, damn, you got me. You know, like, damn, you know. And so that is definitely something, is becoming more open to hearing, smelling, seeing, tasting those first, like, little, before the big thing. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for joining us. We would love to hear your thoughts and questions, responses to our discussion. Interact with us on Facebook or Instagram at Empower Institute. That's IN Power Institute. And be sure to visit our website, empowerinstitute.com. We'll see you next time.
See you. Adios.
Bye.